have a very full, possibly overloaded program for you all. So hope you enjoy it. Thought we'd talk a little bit about the history of this and Earth Day in general. For holidays, it's relatively recent. First Earth Day was 1970. It was the brainchild of then Senator Gaylord Nelson of Wisconsin. And it really came out of the teach-ins on the Vietnam War. These often were done at college campuses, where people would sort of learn facts beyond what was just, on the front page of the newspaper about what was happening in Vietnam, speaking with people who'd been there. And they decided, Vietnam's bad too, but there's a lot of bad stuff happening in the United States as well. Let's do a teach-in about the environment. And environmental teach-ins started happening in campuses, and that then evolved into the first Earth Day, April 22nd, 1970. At the time, there were something like 20 million Americans participated in those events, which, if you do the math, is slightly over 10% of the entire population. This was not a single rally, but pretty much every city, many colleges had their own Earth Day events of different types, including, here's a Native American band, Redbone. I've looked them up on YouTube. They're sort of blues rock band. And they were out there performing, lots of other performers, many events such as this one with a mix of performers and information. So let's start with what we're asking of you, people in the audience. 3 tasks, which, by the way, go together. Don't ask which one's most important. You can't say which organ's the most important in your body either. You need them all. So, number 1, enjoy, have a good time here. That's what we're here for. I think we'll rely especially on the musicians to provide that, but I think everybody will. Secondly, we're going to hopefully learn something, or some things. And perhaps most importantly, we're going to keep it going. Right? This is several hours. You could say the Earth doesn't care all that much we do in the next 2 hours, but it cares a whole lot what we do with our lives. So, I'm going to start. Again, I am Kevin Block-Schwenk, a professor in the liberal arts department. I teach economics and math. And one thing I want you to keep in mind for today, our word for the day is vibes to help our environment. And over the course of this day, we're going to be going 1 letter at a time here. If you have to leave early, it's detailed in your program. But let's start. What you see there, picture of LA 1964, and then about a decade ago. That is not a cloudy day, that's smog. And this was your typical day in your typical city in the 1960s. You looked out and the horizon looked like crud. And this was almost all from pollution, mostly from cars, also factories. I would say there are other parts of the world where the cities still look like this. But here's a question, because something changed. Yeah, occasionally we see a little bit of brown, but it's nothing near the order of magnitude what there used to be. So a little multiple choice quiz here, right? Right? A, people are like, wow, cars are putting out such terrible pollution, I think I'm going to stop driving. I'm going to ride my bicycle and walk. B, people are like, oh, I feel bad about these cars putting out this pollution, I want to buy cleaner cars, consumer pressure, and they'll make cleaner cars. Or a C, laws were passed being like, yeah, no. We have an answer we like? Yes. C is correct. Indeed. In fact, I would add that certainly the number of miles driven, actually the average American drives roughly twice as many miles each year as the average American drove back then. And cleaner cars simply did not exist. That the gasoline of the time did not work with the clean burning engines of today. Yeah, we passed laws. The Clean Air Act, there were some predecessors to it as well. Here's often uninterrupted success. They're very high up in the atmosphere, talking, I think, over 10 miles, is the ozone layer. Ozone, of course, is where oxygen bonds 3 at a time rather than 2 at a time. But the most important thing is there are these ultraviolet rays, right? We can't see them. The A's are what gives you a nice suntan in the summer. The B's are like what they use to sterilize medical equipment. You don't want too much of that ultraviolet B. You know what sterilize means, right? Whatever it is, it kills it. So the ozone layer blocks the overwhelming majority of ultraviolet B radiation that hits the Earth. Which, by the way, another reason why I like being like, let's live on Mars. No, they don't have an ozone layer. Get fried like an egg. So anyway, point is, hooray for the ozone layer. Now it was discovered in the 1970s that there was a massive hole in the ozone layer over Antarctica, and the hole was growing every year. And they realized that there were these chemicals called chlorofluorocarbons, used at the time refrigerants, also used in any little aerosol spray can at the time. And that one of these chlorofluorocarbon chemicals destroys roughly 100,000 ozone molecules. And it was predicted, I remember this as a kid, they were saying that by 2030, the ozone layer would be completely gone. So, good news. We're still alive, and hopefully we'll be at 2030. And what happened? We signed a pact internationally called the Montreal Protocol in 1987. And that agreed, they're like, this stuff is bad news, we're getting rid of them. And you can see the lines is the usage of these pollutants and just the dramatic drop-off there on the left of the amount of pollution. And here's the good news. You read about it. That's the size of the ozone hole. The ozone hole is healing. It continues to heal and get smaller. We won. We don't always win. This is the annual catch of bluefin tuna. Bluefin tuna are caught out in the deep sea. We as an international committee have not gotten our act together to limit the fish caught. Fish make more fish. And thus, as boats become more and more efficient, there's less and less to catch. Another example talking about the ocean is, of course, plastic. Some fraction of the plastic thrown away, say a larger fraction in poor countries, ends up in the ocean. It's estimated there might be more plastic than marine life in the ocean by about 2050. And we're planning to triple the amount of plastic. We have not gotten plastic under control. And of course, the big one, our carbon dioxide emissions, which gradually are heating the Earth. Most people are unaware that without carbon dioxide, the Earth would be about 50 degrees, I think 55 degrees Fahrenheit colder, or roughly 35 degrees Celsius colder. So it's not the idea that CO2 is a blanket. It's like we already have this big blanket, now we're making it thicker. And that's warming stuff up, and you'll see the concentration of it, not only is it going up, but the slope continues to increase. The rate of its increase is still going up. We could beat this. Pollution was going up the same way as it had been going up here. And the same way as these things, you see those chemicals went way up until we got our act together. We were like, no. Which is to you, number one thing you could do for the environment, vote. Vote in every election, not just the presidential one in November. Vote in every local election, vote in every primary. They listen to you a lot more in primaries than they do in general elections. And a good one-stop shop, it's a nonpartisan site, is vote.org. You can change your registration if you've moved, you can register to vote, you can get an absentee ballot. And since we're Berklee, and at least my experience is everybody loves a little extra credit. If you want a little extra credit, I would suggest, join, or at least follow on Facebook, a good environmental organization. Sierra Club's a good one. League of Conservation Voters is good. There are others. So, quick check, is Nicolle Kindred here? Yes, hello. Oh, hi. Well, let me turn this over quickly to Nicolle, good friend from Berklee Green Notes. Go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you, Kevin, and the Earthapalooza crew for having us here. My name is Nicolle Kindred, and as he mentioned, I am from Berklee Green Notes. We are a relatively new sustainability committee, or excuse me, group, not committee yet, on Berklee campus, and we're comprised of faculty, staff, and students, and we want to hear from you. If you haven't checked in with us already, we are right outside the hall. We'd love to hear what you want to see us doing on campus. We'd love for you to volunteer for the Love Your Block event that's coming up on May 3rd. And of course, a little bit sooner, Monday is Earth Day. We're also going to be outside the CAF for the Earth Day celebration. So please get involved. Let us know your email address. Let us know what you want to see happening on campus. Thank you so much and enjoy the show.
And now it's my pleasure. Reese Massey is a sixth semester music ed major who's planning to teach in the elementary schools, music to kids. She was virtually raised on the beaches of California, where she did many beach cleanups growing up, and that taught her about protecting the environment, things we directly can do. Her songs are an eclectic mix of jazz, funk, and house that she hopes will uplift everybody. Give it up for Reese.
Yay! Oh, yeah. Thanks so much for being here, everything. I'm so happy to be able to perform here. Yay! All right. We're going to start off with a song. I have an upcoming album. Woo! Don't know when it's happening yet, but these will all be songs from that. And we're going to start off with one that's not about the environment yet, but is a fun one. It's called New Zealand. Thumbs up, thumbs up. All right. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Without reason, got nothing weigh me down, let life lead the way. I don't wanna know my story's end. Life tastes sweeter when it's unplanned. Trouble my inhibitions and preconceptions. Where is the path and it ain't heaven sent, no. On shoelaces, they only tie me down. I'll just trip if I must. I'm gonna fill the empty pages like a pen without a cap right till my story's found. I don't wanna know my story's end. Life tastes sweeter when it's unplanned. Trouble my inhibitions and preconceptions. Where is the path and it ain't heaven sent, no. Wherever I go, I'll hold myself high. myself any more lies. Wherever I go, I'll hold myself high. Wherever I go, oh, I won't tell myself any more lies. Oh. Wherever I go, I'll hold myself high. Wherever I go, wherever I go. Thanks so much. All right, bringing up the rest of my background vocalists for this next song. All right, this next one is Why I'm Here. It is called Underground. It's actually the first song I wrote, really, and it happened to be about the environment. So, but yeah, I'm super excited for this one. Yay! But yeah, and isn't this band awesome? Blah, blah, blah. They're so great. All right. All good? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. We weren't bound to fall. At first we were on her side. Let this be our wake-up call to look past the money lies. Can't you see our mistake? Many overpowers won. Together we were driven for lust. Together we watch our home turn to dust. We didn't pledge to make it right. Now it's too late to see the light. I can hear Mother Nature's sound, and now our children live underground. Normal life may be gone. Disasters every day in our midst. The planet knows that this is wrong, but we've yet to admit something's amiss. When did it all go to hell? When you first put up that oil well? When did it all start to crumble? That atom bomb caused a lot of the rubble. We didn't pledge to make it right. Now it's too late to see the light. I can hear Mother Nature's sound, and now our children live underground. It's time for us to make the sacrifice. Put all the trust in the men who know the most about the earth and its life. Swallow your pride. There's so much at stake. There's so much at stake. Between life and day, to be decided right now by the choice that we make. We didn't pledge to make it right. Now it's too late to see the light. I can hear Mother Nature's sound, and now our children live underground. We didn't pledge to make it right. Now it's too late to see the light. I can hear Mother Nature's sound, and now our children live Thank you so much. Yay, it's been so awesome being here, and I'm so glad I got asked to do this. Yay. Quickly going through, on guitar we have Stuart, piano we have Trevor, on keys and random things we have Claude, Joey on bass, Eric on drums, Jenny, Caroline, and Claire on vocals. They're so awesome. Give them a round of applause. Oh, and I'm Reese. Yay. All right, last up, this song is called Hope You See It That Way, and it's a fun one. All right. You can just start whenever you're ready. We've been building our home, shaping sand into stone. We're setting the time when the sand would unwind. It's nobody's fault that I've been walking on this hourglass. But now that it's shattered, we can finally ease our minds. I've shattered the list of all the things I had learned. Don't react this way, and don't acknowledge when you're sad. We were trying to be the best thing for each other, but that compromise was a sacrifice in disguise. This could be your chance, this could be your day, this could be your chance to find happiness. This could be your chance, this could be your day, this could be your chance to find happiness. Hope you see it that way. I shouldn't be all the ground at your feet, and I shouldn't hold all your happiness in my hands, 'cause my hands are rough and my back has started aching, and you deserve more than to pray that it never breaks. This could be your chance, this could be your day, this could be your chance to find happiness. This could be your chance, this could be your day, this could be your chance to find happiness. Well, baby, no way. Zabolere, zabolere, find your happiness. Find your motivation. Solitude is such a small price to pay for self-fulfillment, independence, happiness. I hope you see it that way. Oh, find your motivation. Solitude is such a small price to pay for self-fulfillment, independence, happiness. I hope you see it that way. Oh, find your motivation. Find your motivation. Oh, I said happiness. Ooh, hey, hey. Oh, happiness. Thank you so much. Have a good Earthapalooza.
All right, so once again, for anyone who got there late, go through vibes, our letter of the moment. We did V is vote, because we saw that many environmental crises were solved through laws. We're going to go to I. Now, often when people think of saving energy, we think, oh, turn out the lights, or maybe, walk or something. But in fact, most energy we use is not direct consumption of electricity or even heat, but is in fact the stuff we buy and all the energy it takes to make it and transport it. You could see there that the blue is industrial emissions, and then the transportation is the next biggest wedge. And transportation is split essentially 50-50 between moving people and moving stuff. And then a lot of commercial also is involving moving stuff. So you can see individual, when we think of ourselves as energy use, that's maybe a third of the whole picture. With that in mind, I stands for individuality. There are many great ways to express yourself beyond the massive house, beyond the massive pile of stuff. Buy good quality stuff that lasts. Be creative with what you do. Emphasize your individuality, but it's not just about size. I go for a uniqueness, self-expression, and of course, since we want a little extra credit, when you do purchase products, you can buy environmentally friendly ones as well, better for the environment, and a good look to have. And right now, I'm greatly happy to introduce my colleague, Professor Linda Chase, who teaches ethnomusicology, music-spirited transformation, the interdisciplinary arts, and writing for woodwinds. And I will say that she not only teaches this, from what I know of Linda, she is this, an embodiment of all these stuff. So give it up for Linda Chase.
Show me, okay, that should work. Should be good. All right. Why don't you chat for a second while I get some internet? Oh, okay, good.
You good? Okay.
Oh, no, that's not it.
Oh, a quick note, there's a couple tables over there. The one on the left is with free stuff. We still have a few insulated water bottles left, as well as some pens and some good info, food, and then there are some books for sale on the right.
It's Google Slides. Well, that's just my laptop, so if you can just get into it. It's not displaying. I love technology. You don't know how to make it display. Where did Kevin go? People are helping make this display. Do you have anything else you want to do while we're waiting?
This her desktop. There
Like
should
an-
be something like display view, and it will automatically post there. But I don't know where the button is.
I'm sorry, I just sort of assumed if my computer worked yours would work. Can you email me your?
I could use yours, and it's just Google Slides.
That's what I experiencing temporary technical difficulties. I would say, in terms of Earthapalooza itself as an event, this started 4 years ago, this being the 5th annual one. And a little thing about the performers here is that Berklee has a Songs for Social Change contest, which typically gets over 100 entries. And then Professor Maximus, who helps run that contest, sends along to me environmental themed songs, and then I pick those, and those people are invited to perform for this. I would add that Songs for Social Change is a multi-issue contest. Their own showcase was last week, where people write about sort of whatever's on their mind or in their heart. So it's kind of gratifying to see these people. It wasn't just do an environmental song and maybe you get to perform it. It was do what's, moving you. And here they are. So I think that's something really special. Still technical difficulties, eh? Okay. I do the next letter, except of course you have my computer, so. Hopefully it'll still work.
Hopefully, I know, exactly. So I don't forget it. Well, it was working
because
fine
before.
Yep, there we go. Amazing. Yay. Okay, present. All right, sorry about all that. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Kevin, for getting this all together. Belief systems from cultures that represent humans as interdependent with other life forms differ from the prevailing ideas of the industrialized West. Gregory Cajete observes that the environmental crisis has risen from a narrow point of view in which humans have placed themselves in a position of dominance and irreverence. The land speaks. Some might think it's my imagination, or perhaps I hear the voice of God, but what I hear is something even harder to explain. Much of what we experience cannot be explained and does not fit into objective mechanical point of view found in Western ways of thinking. Economic and political priorities have defined and redefined the way people listen to nature and to each other. Hearing landscape can begin with listening to other than humans. Navajo Diné ceremonial songs celebrate the sounds of the natural world. The Apache connect to the land through oral narratives and make bonds between individuals and features of natural landscape. Conceptualizations of place communicate wisdom and ways of imagining the past. What matters most is not when events occurred, but where they occurred and what they can reveal. The relationship to place is a central concept in indigenous knowledge because a connection with the land symbolizes a connection to the spirit of life. Places shape our outer and our inner realities. Places shape ways of being, but in contemporary urban society, many people don't connect with a sense of place. For some, the world can feel placeless, and repetitive chain stores only seem to exaggerate this feeling. It is increasingly common for people to leave their place of origin, departing from small towns with limited opportunities, heading to larger cities, going to music school, looking for broader diversity and greater employment. Others seek kindred spirits, compatible ways of thinking, or acceptance. Airline travel expands educational, business, and leisure opportunities, bringing people further away from their origins more easily than in the past. Appreciating the value of place is challenged by technologies like cell phones, video calls, personal electronic entertainment that claim to offer replacements for being there in person. With increased mobility, roots in landscape may dim by comparison with new exotic adventures. Capitalism feeds this lack of satisfaction, misleading people to believe that one cannot acquire too many new and exciting experiences. The disconnection with place commonly found in Western industrial society is partly related to a worldview that considers natural places to be objects rather than living beings. Products are manufactured and produced far from where they're sold. Land is seen as a commodity that can be sold and therefore exploited. But cultivating relationship with place is the key to sustainability. A place-based pedagogy can empower new leadership to critically examine ways economic, political, and ecological conditions are produced, prioritizing socially just transformations. But what does a relationship to the land and ecology have to do with being a musician? And how does it relate to the musical life and career choices of an artist? At this critical time on the planet, artists have great potential to communicate information, nurture compassion, build community, and inspire action. In speaking out artistically about environmental issues, artists will be much more effective if they know how to access accurate facts and possess a more than aesthetic understanding of the issues. Artists need eco-literacy education, so they have the tools to understand how to engage in eco-justice. In order for musicians to become leaders for environmental justice, music education can incorporate basic ecological understanding into the curriculum through creative approaches specifically relevant to music students. Teaching ecology through music empowers musicians to figure out how they might personally and creatively contribute to positive and sustainable change. Listening to sounds of the non-human world expands sensual and creative ways of knowing. Sound consciousness provides fertile ground to plant seeds of awareness about critical environmental issues. Who better than musicians to empathize and speak out against noise pollution and other injustice? Much of the human-caused damage to this planet can't be seen. Increasingly loud sounds generated by cities, traffic, and industrial sites negatively impact land and marine animals. When the acoustic environment is altered, the ability to find food, communicate, or locate mates is affected. Bird populations decline when exposed to continuous noise, although some birds adjust their pitch and timing of their calls in order to be heard. Bats rely on sound to hunt, and their ability to find food is hindered if they're near loud noise or highways. In the western United States, scrub jays avoid nesting in areas near gas wells because the constant sound of compressors drowns out the birds' communication calls. Studies have found that after the jays relocated, the forests that they left began to decline. In New Mexico, birds collect and bury pinyon pine seeds to prepare for the winter, but the seeds they fail to recollect become the next generation of trees. Near the gas wells, the pine trees are disappearing because without the birds, no one plants the seeds. Some field compressors can be heard 3 or 4 miles from the site and are so loud that people near the stations, next to the stations, have to shout just to be heard. Marine animals are also adversely affected by human noise. There are especially high levels of noise near ports, shipping lanes, petroleum search areas. Underwater sounds produced by seismic surveys, shipping traffic, gas and oil exploration, drilling, and military sonar are increasing. Military sonar emits sounds as loud as a rocket taking off. Sound travels much faster in the water than on land, affecting dolphins, porpoises, and whales, who use sound to navigate, communicate, and monitor their surroundings. Hearing is survival for them. Marine biologists recently have observed how noise impacts the beluga and narwhal whales. Sound is critical for whales to locate their breathing holes. There is more noise than there ever have been, and to avoid this noise, the whales have relocated back to a place with ice entrapment. Recently, 1,000 whales perished trying to breathe out of a single breathing hole. To fix these problems, we will have to expand our ability to listen. Ecomusicology. There are many ways that people relate sonically to the environment, and numerous scholarly and artistic disciplines engage with these interactions. Ecomusicology encompasses a diverse collection of interdisciplinary fields exploring sound relationships between the human and other than human worlds. Throughout history, people have artistically expressed relationships with nature, and as the environmental movement has grown, musical expressions have also increased. Since the early 1970s, studies of music and ecology grew along with environmental education. Related to ecomusicology is historical musicology and ethnomusicology, considering the interconnection between music, culture, and nature. Sonic relationships with place, music describing nature, interspecies sound communication, music with an ecological intent, and other than human sounds exemplify the diversity in this field. Without a universally agreed upon definition of music, one must remember how simply the process of listening transforms sound into music. People may consider birdsong or the sound of the wind to be music, whether or not the sound producers have that intention. The word ecology comes from the Greek, oikos, meaning home, household or home. Ecology studies the relationship between organisms and their environment. If ecology investigates the interrelationships with an environment where everything is connected, let's extend this definition to join music and ecology. Nature and culture are in a mutual relationship. Composers lyrically and sonically describe the world. Music can go beyond connecting sound to place to political critique. Whether this is activism or an example of how the arts reflect society and support social movements, music can speak out. Like listening to music, paying attention to environmental sounds alters perception. Acoustic ecology and soundscape studies describe a blending of sound design, composition, and scholarship that relate to sonic environments. Soundscapes can play a significant role in eco-activism by posing questions and challenging presumptions. Soundscapes can illustrate relationships between people and other than human beings. Soundscape artists reflect on environmental issues to increase awareness by using field recordings as part of or the entire composition. Similar to visual media, they offer a creative way to examine an issue by directing the listener to simply pay attention. Soundscapes can present ecological issues by directly and sonically framing an observation and opening it to discussion. In my ecomusicology classes, we explore how perceptions about nature influence our interactions. Ecological arts model how the incorporation of ethics into the creative process can generate a musical ecology. Music students can practice attentiveness through focused listening. However, the auditory overstimulation of our current world causes people to habitually tune out. Life in the 21st century increasingly cultivates the practice of tuning out rather than tuning in. As a result, people are becoming less attentive, not still or patient enough to listen to the land. The physical landscape informs our mental landscape as we experience place through our senses, but the industrialized soundscape creates obstacles that interrupt our listening. With the majority of people living in cities, the opportunity to listen to the earth is diminishing. Hearing the landscape requires slowing down. Cultivating harmonic interdependence with all species will require a deeper listening. What is the effect of not listening? What are we missing by tuning out? So finally, ecological harmony. Ecosophy is defined as the wisdom of ecological harmony. Ecosophy is the wisdom of ecological harmony. Listening to other than humans will bring an awareness of how to live in harmony and generate a personal connection with other species. What if we expand the concept of ecosophy to become a ecomusicosophy? Listening can offer insights into the health of an ecosystem and alter the way humans perceive the natural world because listening cultivates relationship. Singing together strengthens the sense of community and empowers action. Introducing music students to ecological issues through sound invites the musician to enter into the interspecies conversation through a sonic language. To musically educate for compassion, educators can remind students that their collective listening and ensemble playing prepares them for engagement with the larger community and with all species. Listening to the trees, the shouts of injustice, and the songs of the whales shapes not only our music, but guides our daily decisions. Thank you for listening. And I would like to introduce Lily Hormel, who is going to sing. She's a third semester songwriting major. Apart from music, she loves surfing and hiking and is passionate about environmental conservation. Accompanying her is Carrick Nicolle on piano and Chiara Janet, is that right? On background vocals. Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Lily. And this first song that we're going to be doing is an original song that I wrote for the Songs for Social Change showcase about dolphin and whale captivity.
Do they remember what it feels like jumping through the waves? How long does it take for a memory to fade? Do they remember what it looked like in the water that day? The boats and the nets and the faces that pulled their family away. 'Cause they don't have a voice, so they don't have a choice. If you could just look past the smile, you'll see the ocean in their eyes. 'Cause all they wanna do is ride that wave of blue from the beaches to the open ocean. Can't you love them from the wild? But we just had to get too close and use a good heart till it's broken. All they wanna do is ride that wave of blue. I wonder what the ocean sounds like at night. Do they hear it in their dreams before they wake up in the lights? As you're smiling and laughing, they're watching through the glass, wondering why they're never leaving, but you're just walking past. 'Cause they don't have a voice, so they don't have a choice. If you could just look past the smile, you'll see the ocean in their eyes. 'Cause all they wanna do is ride that wave of blue from the beaches to the open ocean. Can't you love them from the wild? But we just had to get too close and use a good heart till it's broken. All they wanna do is ride that wave of blue. But they don't have a choice, so we can be their voice. And maybe one day they can finally see the ocean with their own eyes.
Thank you. So this next one we'll be doing is a little bit lighter note. We're going to be doing a cover of Joni Mitchell's Big Yellow Taxi. I thought it was fitting for this event.
They paved paradise and put on a parking lot. A pink hotel, a boutique, and a swinging start. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Late last night, I heard the screen door slam, and a big yellow taxi took away my old man. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot.
And this last one, you all know this one also too. This is Landslide by Fleetwood Mac. And I just want to say thank you so much for having me at this event. I think it's such a great thing that we're doing at Berklee, and I'm so happy to be a part of it. So thank you.
I took my love and I took it down. I climbed a mountain and I turned around, and I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills till the landslide brought me down. Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? Cause I've been afraid of changing, cause I built my life around you. But time makes you bolder, children get older, and I'm getting older too. Well, I've been afraid of changing, cause I built my life around you. Well, time makes you bolder, children get older, and I'm getting older too. Well, I'm getting older too. Take my love and take it down. Oh, climb a mountain and turn around. And if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, well, the landslide will bring it down. Well, the landslide will bring it down.
Thank you so much.
Lily, that was beautiful. Excuse me one sec. It's all good. As a little aside here, so we've been going through vibes. V was vote, and it's worth noting the bridge of Big Yellow Taxi where she's asking the farmer to put away the DDT, a chemical which was used as a pesticide that would weaken the shells of bird eggs. So it was looking that the bald eagle was going to go extinct because the heavier birds sitting on the eggs to incubate them would crack right through their own eggshells. DDT, that's another case of a victory. DDT people voted and got active. DDT was banned, and the bald eagles made an amazing comeback. So nice to see a little memorial to a fight that they didn't know they were going to win, but they did. V is for vote again. That's how we win. I for individuality over quantity, what we buy. Again, if you missed this, details are in the program. Other administrative note, there's a free swag table over there, and then a not free book table, but still a very good deal. We're up to B. B, his quote from Mahatma Gandhi, be the change you want to see. It's almost a cliche, but the question is, well, why is it important to be the change you want to see? What impact does an individual have? And I'd give it two ways, not just yes, if billions of you do it, it's going to make a difference. But beyond that, a whole lot of us are guided just by social norms. We do stuff because it's normal to do. And of course, social norms change over time. We see this not just with the environment, of course, with, racial relations, with what we think of as, what's acceptable behavior, whatever. We often just sort of kids look at us, look at the adults in their lives, and they say, oh, okay, this is how it's done. So you're influencing the other generation, all the people that's often said, once you get a critical mass of about 15% of people doing something, the rest happens because it becomes the norm. Also, if you are advocating for something, it really helps if you walk the walk. It just makes you look, people take notice. To take it to the modern day, because not all heroes are from the mid-20th century, I personally have been greatly inspired by Greta Thunberg. Does this name ring a bell? Yes. Right. Young Swedish girl who started school striking every Friday, demanding that we get climate change under control. Quick note, go to class. She's in high school. But she's been doing this since she's inspired many, many other school strikes. And she has spoken at the European Parliament. She spoke at Davos. She's become a very influential speaker for, I should say, a 16-year-old girl with autism. And one thing about her, and I think that gives her a lot of that force, is she said, choice she's made is she said, to get climate under control, we need to fly less. I'm not flying at all. She's refused a lot of speaker invitations. Would have been so easy for her to say, well, I'm different, I'm special, they need me there, I need to go. But you shouldn't fly. She does that. She also stopped eating meat. More on that later. So once again, if you believe something, really try to make it part of your life. And again, since we're into bonus points here, if you're doing something good, post about it on social media. Post that you were here today on your Facebook or wherever you post. Hey, take my picture and put it on Instagram. I don't care. But either way, that's, again, a way that you help establish the social norms. And right now, I'm about to introduce what I consider one of the great hidden gems of Berklee here. We have Ben Thomas, who teaches, Mesoamerican art and archaeology, and great discoveries of archaeology. Berklee is his side thing, but it's his side thing. I say he brings 100% what he teaches here. I've seen him speak in other circumstances, and I'm absolutely thrilled. Let's give it up for Professor Ben Thomas. Let's try plugging in yours, hoping for the best. learning experience for everybody. One thing you learn is always get the presentation onto at least 2 and preferably 10 different computers, since evidently technology likes to work with one and not the other. However, we will be up and going within about 90 seconds. In the meantime, again, feel free to check out what's on the table. It looks like the bags are all gone. There's still a couple reusable coffee mugs, so to speak, as well as good information and pens. We all can use pens. This is a form of reduce, reuse, recycle. Plenty of extras. Go ahead and grab.
Let me get out of this and get you a laptop. Not a Mac person, so how do I get this started? Just
We're on Google, but probably is there a slide for play from current slide? No. This is the Google thing.
Oh, perfect. Let's see. Let's go with presenter view. Good? All right. Sorry. Okay. I honestly can say I've never been referred to as a hidden gem before. That was a first, and I enjoyed it. Thank you, Kevin. All right. Well, in general, I am pleased to be here. This is my first Earthapalooza. Thank you for inviting me, Kevin. Thank you for getting all this organized. And we are going to step back in time a little bit on this presentation to talk a little bit about an ancient culture that created this incredibly complex civilization that lasts for an extremely long time if you look at it, but is built on this very fragile foundation, environmental and climatic foundation that eventually catches up with them. So that's what we're going to be talking about. But again, I am going to take you back in time a little bit on this. So I termed this talk Climate, Environment, and the Rise and Fall of the Ancient Maya. But to be realistic about it, it should be Climate, Environment, Rise and Fall, and Rise Again of the Ancient Maya. So even though I will paint a bleak scenario initially, there is hope. There is a positive outcome to this. And that is the lesson or the message, I guess, I want to get across, that even though we are at a point where we are really doing things to mess up our environment, there is hope. It's up to us to be that change. It's up to us to act now. All right, so Over 3,000 years ago, the Maya established a fairly amazing civilization that extended from the coastal lowlands all the way across dense jungles and up to the soaring mountains of Central America. Between 250 AD and about 800 AD, the period that we call the classic Maya, Maya civilization is characterized by extremely large city-states and kingdoms. Things like this. This is Tikal. This is Palenque. These are enormous cities, huge urban centers that were carved out of a jungle environment, a rainforest environment, built by extremely ambitious and powerful kings. And you can still see the remains of these cities across Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. These powerful kings with names that we can now read but initially couldn't, we would give them names like Stormy Sky, Lord Shield, and Smoke Jaguar. But we now know their names and we can read the Maya glyphs. And so these are kings named Siaj Chan Kawil, Kinij Janab Pakal, and Chan Imish Kawil. These guys, powerful rulers, leaders of powerful dynasties, made their mark on the Maya world through enormous architectural programs. This was their legacy to the future. Built in stone, permanent stone, stone that never breaks down. This was their idea to create a stamp on their region and in Maya culture in general. So this is what they're doing. They're investing in stone architecture, but that's not the only thing they're doing. They're building pyramids and temples and enormous palaces. This is the one at Palenque, absolutely gorgeous structure. When complete, it'll look more like this, or this waterside residence for the kings of Tikal, built over several generations. Just incredible residential structures, in addition to the temples and the pyramids. But at the same time, while all this is going on the domestic front, they're still conducting bloody and brutal wars, looking for resources, getting more territory, holding, can't see this too well, but these enormous festivals and rituals. This is a ritual of in which they're naming the heir of a city called Bonampak, and the king of Bonampak is naming his successor, and so all the lords who are allied with Bonampak have come to kind of pay homage to the crown prince. They're also making personal monuments, called stela, where you have images of these kings, and they are sort of talking about themselves, talking about their great works, and talking about the things that they have done. So here, just to give you a scale of these things, these are enormous things. So here we have, by the classic period, just dozens of these kingdoms, these city-states that are popping up all over the Mesoamerican world, all over the Maya world, sorry. We now know that these settlements and the areas around them contain millions of Maya. And just for perspective, if you're familiar with the country of Belize, Belize today has about 350,000 people. Back in the day, it probably had 2 million Maya people. So the Maya world is crowded, centered around these big city-states. And of course, the big city-states have to do something to provide for their people. So the kings are exploiting their lands. They are cutting down forests to create agricultural fields. They're also getting resources to build their big cities. In 2006, Mel Gibson made a terrible Maya movie called Apocalypto. But despite its kind of cynical and racist interpretation of the Maya, he does hit a few right notes, and one of the things that he has in the movie is a series of captives as they enter this big city. You see kind of the devastation that this overdevelopment has wrought on the city, and this is one example of it. He's showing you how lime plaster is built for the building. So all these structures that you see in the Maya world today would have been plastered and painted in the past. And in this scene, Mel Gibson is showing the kind of resources, time, human effort it would have taken to create this lime. And it is not sustainable. It's not environmentally friendly. It deforests heavily. You have to make a kiln. You pile up limestone in a big pile, and then you have to have all this wood as fuel around it, which you then light on fire to get these rocks to get superheated, and then you create once it's superheated, you can create powder by adding water. But it's an incredibly wasteful process. we know that by the Classic period, the Maya are deforesting extensive areas of the jungle around them in search of timber. They're also creating new fields to feed the millions of people that are attached to these cities. So here they go, they are deforesting for the timber and the fuel for making their lime plaster. They're deforesting to create their agricultural fields to feed their population. But it is a time of extensive exploitation of the landscape. And so from about 250 to about 800, this is the scenario in Central America, with these kingdoms demanding, and the kings demanding more and more in resources, more and more in taxes and tribute from their citizens so they can support their programs, and in turn exploiting the environment to be able to get the kind of things that they need access to in this case. So what happens? By 800 AD, there's an incredible change. So for about 5 centuries, the Maya are exploiting their land, creating these fields, building these cities. Then at about 800 AD, it all stops. And sites are abandoned, major construction is stopped, there are no more new sculptures of kings, no more dated monuments, administrative and residential structures are abandoned, and population decreases. In about 50 to 100 years, we have rapid and massive depopulation of all these centers. And as archaeologists, we've sort of struggled with this. How does a civilization that gets going about 3,000 years ago, and then for the next 1,000 or so years, build this incredible, awe-inspiring, culture across these, in this environment in Central America? How does it all of a sudden come to an end? And we've debated about these collapse reasons, and it's been seriously an ongoing debate for decades now in some ways, and we've tried all sorts of explanations. We've included socio-political factors, talking about revolts by the lower classes resulting in an overthrow of the elites. The problem with this is that not all cities were overthrown. We don't have evidence for huge damage or insurrection, no burnt buildings in the same way, so we're not entirely sure if that's a valid reason. We looked at things like intersite warfare between Maya cities, and sure, there is some of that, but still couldn't explain this massive scale of the collapse. Invasions by people from outside the Maya world, again, some evidence for that, but not enough. And then just a general failure of centralized authority. Maya kings portray themselves as king priests. They are the conduit to the gods. They say, worship us, pay your taxes and tribute to us. We'll make sure the rains come. We'll make sure your crops flourish. We'll make sure your families are healthy. Now, if you cannot deliver on that promise for a few decades, people are going to lose faith. So we thought maybe that's what it was, just a massive kind of loss of faith in the leadership that leads to people just leaving their cities. All these probably played some part in this Maya collapse, but the issue is, I think that there's a precipitating factor that leads to all this, and more as we do the excavations, as we do the scientific explorations, we're coming down to the idea of this being related to climate change. We are looking at climate change, soil exhaustion due to the exploitation of the land, water loss and erosion, soil erosion because of deforestation, increased sedimentation of the lakes, disease brought on by these issues, overpopulation, and the biggest factor of all, drought. Mesoamerican populations, Maya populations, are all agriculturally based. The foundation for the economy is agriculture. If the rains don't come and that agricultural base is undercut, there is no revenue as such. The money or the goods and the materials that these kings need to trade for the exotic items that they want, to go out and acquire the materials they need to build their cities, they can't get it because they're not getting the taxes from the people, from the farmers. The farmers don't have the produce to give them. They don't have the goods to trade, and we wonder how much of an effect that had on the cities themselves. So a lot of the new research now is much less glamorous. No more big pyramids and temples and palaces. No, that's still going on. But we are also now focusing on these environmental conditions. Lake cores are a big avenue of evidence for us. These are a photo of a group of colleagues of mine doing lake cores in these Maya lakes. The process is pretty simple. You literally put a tube down into the bed of the lake, pull it out, extrude the sediment, and you can see what's going on. We know now, for instance, that collapse of the Maya at the end of what we call the Classic period coincided with an extreme period of dryness. So those big peaks are just smack dab in the range of when the Maya collapsed. And you can see that's the highest arid sort of period that we have. We know from the lake course that sedimentation in lakes is increasing. We believe part of this is because of the deforestation, because there is nothing to hold the soil. It's all flowing into the river, into the lakes, silting it up. And then this combined with a more arid weather is going to result in less water, more sediment in your lakes, and then of course no access to these. Especially as a farmer, you need this water. We have looked at these sediment cores, and what you're looking at is actually the red lines, the red hatched lines on the right are from the time period of the Maya collapse. If you look up to the left of the blow up, all that white that you see is gypsum. And gypsum crystallizes out of the water. It's calcium carbonate that crystallizes out of the water the more arid the conditions. To see that much gypsum in that small slice of the core seems to indicate an extreme salting event. So again, salt is not good for your plants. Well, salt in minimal proportions is good for your plants. Excessive salting is bad. We know of cases from Mesopotamia when groups would attack one another, the things that they would do is salt the fields to prevent the growth from happening. This is natural salting of the fields. But we're beginning to see this and beginning to understand that a lot of what we are talking about of this collapse may have been precipitated by the fact that human overexploitation of the resources and the land may have resulted in a weakening of this agricultural foundation, of this base, this economic foundation, and when that collapses, there's nothing to support this really sort of bloated, elite at the top of these cities, and as the foundation collapses, they're collapsing as well. But I said I would end on a note of hope. I have about 2.5 minutes. This is what we see. So the collapse, and everybody talks about the Maya collapse. The collapse wasn't universal. It was mainly in the southern lowlands. By that point, in the northern lowlands, we're still seeing people continue. One of the things that happens is the northern lowlands is, and I'll show you a map in a second, was always dealing with a lack of water. And they may have been better prepared, had better contingencies for dealing with drought. So what happens is not really that everything collapses and Maya civilization comes to an end. What happens is cities collapse and people just go and find areas where things are still going on, and the north gets a huge population increase. And if you look at this map, what happens in the areas that were deforested and eroded, when people leave, and when you leave it fallow, you see a forest rebound and a forested area, the forest's coming back. When that exploitation by people is gone and the rains come back, things do rebound. And then you have big cities in the north, like Chichen, Tulum, Mayapan, and a bunch of other cities that form in the post-classic. So, in closing, an archaeologist at the University of Arizona, a colleague of mine, Takeshi Inomata, who works on this, and he says this, and it's a simple quote, but one that I think is meaningful. He says, climate change does not lead automatically to societal collapse. Depending on how society copes with environmental changes, outcomes can be very different. As we try to deal with climate change in the future, archaeological studies, or studies in general, need to focus more on how past societies like the Maya coped with natural disasters successfully or unsuccessfully. So this is something I always tell people when they ask me, why study the past? Why look at things from 1,000 years ago? The key thing is that, and I'm going to massacre the quote, but you've heard the quote, as humans, we're doomed to repeat history. And this seems to be the key thing here. When you look at the past, what you have is an incredible database of human behavior from thousands of years. We know how people responded to certain situations, certain environmental conditions. We know what they tried. We know the things that they did. We know what was successful and what was unsuccessful. What we need to do is take those lessons, see what they did. We don't have to repeat the mistakes. We don't have to do the same things again. We can see what they did. And we can use the things that they learned from there to inform what we do today. But again, not hopeless. There is hope as long as we act, and we have to act now. And that's the big, I think, if I could say anything that we can learn from the Maya. Okay, thanks. Oh, and this slide, just to show you northern lowlands, what I mean. goes up to the north of Yucatan, and you can see the darker gray. That's the concentration. So after the southern lowland sites collapse, that's where people go. All right. All right, I am excited to introduce the next group. Nicolle Horbath Chaves is in her second semester at Berklee and has performed in several scenarios in Colombia since she was 9 years old. Her music influences are jazz, Latino American music, and Colombian folk music. She would live by the sea for the rest of her life if it depended on her. When she's close to the sea and sand, she feels at peace and connected to Mother Nature. This is her song, Sueña. About to perform, it's in Spanish, but it's on 2 slides, but at least at the beginning you'll get an idea of what the lyrics are that she is going to be singing about. And Nicolle is a former student of mine, so I'm extra excited to hear her.
Hello, everyone. I am super happy to be here. I think this is a really special event. And I'm going to perform one of my original songs called but that is the last song. I'm gonna perform 2 more songs. And the first one, it's bullerengue, that is a traditional rhythm from Colombia, from the coast of Colombia. And the song is called Mata de Azar de la India. The songs are in Spanish, but I'll try to tell you what they're about. This song was written by a friend of mine. He wrote it for his grandma. His grandma had like this garden where she had a lot of flowers and a lot of trees, and she like really good care of them. And she sang to them, and she was like, the flowers were like her friends. So he wrote this song about her love for the flowers. So I think it's really beautiful. And I will introduce the band. On the piano is Santiago Bertel from Colombia. On the tambor alegre and percussion, Ricky Matute from Colombia. And the bass, the great Ernesto Núñez from Dominican Republic. And on the drums, Oscar Quilca from Peru. Tengo mi mata de ruda, tengo mi mata de ruda, hierba buena y manzanilla, pero la que yo más quiero ver, mata de azar de la India, oye mi matambe, mata de azar de la India, oye mi matambe.
da 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 ya da 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 ba da 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 Ya levántate temprano, ya levántate temprano, y a sus flores recógela, matas de azar de India, hombre, la adoración de mi abuela. Oh, y en mi mata, hombre, mata de azar de la India. Oh, y en mi mata, hombre, mata de azar de la. Ay, me la llevo, hombre. Mata de azar de la India. Thank you very much. Thank you. This next song is a traditional song from Peru. Yes. So if you want to dance salva, you're very welcome. And the song has a really catchy and easy like coro, so you can sing along. I'll teach you. You can do it. Okay, it's toro mata y toro mata. Just that. 1, 2, 3, and toro mata y toro mata. Great. The other part is toro mata rumbambero, toro mata rumbambero, toro mata. Okay, awesome. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, toro mata is like, how do you say that? Bull? Kill the bull, but it's not like a. It's not a bad song, I swear. It has other meanings, it's not. That is it. Okay. Toro mata y toro mata rumbambero, toro mata you, toro mata y toro mata rumbambero, toro mata. La color no le permite hacer quitia pitistia y toro mata, que la color permite
Acerquite a piti, tiai, toro mata toro torito, que toro mata ahí, toro mata rumba, pero toro mata, que toro mata ahí, ay, toro mata rumba, pero toro mata. Yo soy matador, yo lo voy a matar, no lo mato yo, mátalo no más que yo soy matador, yo lo voy a matar y no lo mato yo, mátalo no más que mata ahí, toro mata. Toro mata rumba, pero ay, toro mata, que toro mata ahí, ay, toro mata rumba, pero toro mata. Que la ponde, ahí la ponde, que la ponde, ahí es enero, ahí la ponde, oh shit, ahí la ponde, que la ponde, la ponde, ahí la ponde, ahí la ponde, ay que es enero no está aquí, ahí la ponde, ay que es enero está cari, ahí la ponde, ya me cansé, ahí la ponde. Thank you and sorry for that. I'm so sorry. And this last song, it's my original song. Yes, please. Okay, this song I wrote like 1.5 years ago, and I wrote it about like how I feel about the connection between me and the Mother Earth. Like I have always felt a deep connection with the sea, with the sand, and I'm in my most peaceful place when I'm near the sea. So this is Sueña, that in English is dream, and I hope you enjoy it. Some of you know the song, so I hope you sing it. Yes, you do. En las playas se contó que un ser de luz llegó a hacer un acuerdo con el sol, con las nubes y el mar que Dios saló. La misma tierra se agitó, recibiéndola con todo su amor. Un murmullo de vida se creó, con un soplo la tierra floreció. Y las estrellas salen solo con escuchar su voz. Con caracola ella va componiendo una canción. Y mi canción es de esta otra orilla donde un poema donde poco a poco fui dejando el corazón y sueña con estar enamorada de la brisa, lluvia y del sol en tu mirada. La ven corretear las olas sin dueño y todos preguntan pa' dónde se irá. Ella baila, se menea y se va directico hacia el mar. Tan, 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 taran, tan, taran, tan, taran, tararare, taran, tararare, taran, tan, taran, tan, tararare, tararare, taran, porarare, taran, tan, taran, tan, pararare, tararare, tan, 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 un mar de voces resuena con fuerza, golpeando la roca, mojando la arena de todas las canciones y melodías que las criaturas del mar aprendieron de ella, su sueño, su historia y la vida. Lo más bello que trae su poesía se funden en ella como si fuera la misma estrella que viene y va, y las estrellas salen solo con escuchar su voz. Con caracola ella va componiendo una canción y su música se oye desde en otro día donde un poema nació, donde poco a poco fue dejando el corazón y sueña con estar enamorada de la brisa, la lluvia y del sol en tu mirada. La ven corretear las olas sin dueño y todos preguntan pa' dónde se irá. Ella baila, se menea y se va directico hacia el mar. Tan, tan, tan. Luna que se queda recogiendo estrellas, estrellas que se quedan recordando aquellas letras que la arena llevan la música que en su canto regaló. Luna que se quedó recogiendo estrellas, estrellas que se quedó recordando aquellas letras que en la arena llevan la música que en su canto regaló. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Great, that was awesome, Nicolle. Well done. I'll admit that we're all about saving the planet, but damn, that was fun. Okay, so to review, and I would encourage By the way, we initially had programs in every seat. I know there's been a little circulation, people going, people coming. If you don't have a program, please grab one. It has good resources in it as well, including this all detailed if you miss it. So we're talking about good vibes for the environment. V for vote. A lot of big problems get fixed through laws. I for individuality over simply quantity and bulk of what you purchase. And B, the change you want to see. We're moving on to E. So we're going to be talking about food here and consumption versus overconsumption of food. And it's really a very simple equation. You either get a big pile of grains and beans and other good food you could eat, or you get a little bit of meat and a big steaming pile of turds. And you can sort of think, here are the ratios here, sort of how many pounds of food goes into making each pound of meat. So it's sort of like, any piece of chicken, you get about enough waste for about double that. Beef, it's more like, a piece of meat is sort of like 8 plates of turds for every plate of that. So simply put, there's enough food for everybody. If we eat plants, there's simply not enough food if we cycle it all and convert most of it into dung before the rest of it gets eaten. And of course, less food consumed means less pressure in the environment, as Ben was talking about earlier, that when you put too much pressure on, it makes you very vulnerable to if things ever go worse. So, E, eat earth friendly. Poster back from World War II, also encouraging no waste. There's multiple parts, right? Don't waste food. If you're in the cafeteria, don't take double portions, then only eat one. Take what you eat, like clean your plate and all that. And of course, we said consume an absolute minimum amount of animal products, because that again is a waste of food. And again, since we're going for bonus points here, if you do other stuff, of course, local is good, organic is good, and support your local farmer's market. The prices are often shockingly good, and you get great food. Again, beneficial to buy straight from the farmer than have a whole bunch of people making profits in between them and you. All right, and with that, man, I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce the next speaker. Victor here has the author of the books on those tables there. He teaches contemporary political thought and modern history, and perhaps most importantly, he's been in the fight since the 60s. A lot of these victories, which to us we talk about, like, oh yeah, this was done a long time ago, he was there. So give it up for Victor.
No technical delay. Could I have not the light in my eyes, though? That light up there is, if you put it down. And could you tell me when I have 2 minutes left, since you're keeping track? Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Indeed, I was participating in the first Earth Day at the college that I was then teaching at in 1970, so I'm happy to be continuing. And I'm glad that you mentioned Greta Thunberg and her crusade, her sort of solo crusade, sitting outside next to the Parliament building every week. But the point is, it's an expression of the urgency of the situation, and that's what I try to impress on people all the time. This light is really bothering me. I can't see anybody. It's kind of, I don't feel, I'd rather be conversing than be sort of on stage. If the lights in the hall could be turned up, I could see you, and not have that terrible light in my eyes. Sorry. Yeah, much better. Well, but where does it go from there? I mean, it should be millions of people should be doing that, and of course, it's not a question of missing classes. The discussion should be brought back into the schools themselves. The point is that the urgency of the situation is so extreme that we really have to rethink the whole way in which our society is organized. And this is coming to be recognized more and more. I mean, it was, in a sense, recognized in the report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change when it said we have 12 years, and they said it requires reconsidering basic system assumptions, which is a very important part of the whole process. And I think also, as another indication of a sign of what's happening, how many of you have heard of the Extinction Rebellion? Is that much known yet in the country? It's a movement that was started just last year in the United Kingdom, now beginning to spread into the United States. There was a very good interview with Lee Camp, by Lee Camp of one of the leaders in the United States, and they had a big die-in a day or two ago in New York by City Hall. These are expressions of the urgency of the situation, and what I've tried to do to respond to the urgency of the situation is, well, in the intellectual work I'm doing and in public demonstrations and so on, but what it implies is the urgency and the extreme nature of the threat. It implies something about the scale of the changes that are needed. So immediately, for example, when I think of the political dimension, voting, yes, but what do you have to vote for? The point is that we have to reshape the whole conversation. We have to reshape the debates. We have to have someone there that we can vote for. And how do we get that person there? That requires all our activity at every level. So organizations, it should be a continuing preoccupation. And all we have in the political scene now is attempts to distract us, to take our attention away from these key issues, whether it's talking about some alleged invasion, quote unquote, of people, desperate people fleeing a horrible situation in their home countries and coming to the US, or whether it's talking about the alleged control by a foreign power of our electoral process, which is a failure to take into account the lack of success. Well, it's a failure to acknowledge what was not done for people by the preceding administration before 2016. So all these efforts, whether it's Russiagate or the so-called emergency of refugees, distracting our attention, and lots of the rest of our lives, of the things that we're presented with, the things that we're encouraged to give our attention to, are distractions away from facing the key issues. So I think especially, I'm delighted that we have this event, because I think it's absolutely crucial to bring these issues into every sphere of life, and especially in the cultural dimension, to bring out the fact that it's not only arguments, but it's also the whole being that must respond, must react, must be involved in the situation. It's a total thing. So I would say, on the one hand, those of us like myself who make arguments and so on about, we're not sufficient because we need the support of those who reach out in a kind of emotional domain to people. But on the other hand, I would also say in the other direction, it also applies that those of you who are working in the cultural domain, you need to have a deep understanding of the gravity of the situation and the range of types of activity of human beings that have to be modified or adjusted and so on. So that's in a way what my books are about. One of them, and I urge you to have a look at them. We can talk about them, and they relieve me from the obligation of presenting everything now. The briefest summary, in a sense, is what's appropriate. But the political issue is. I summarize the Red-Green Revolution book is about the concept of eco-socialism. Eco-socialism summarizes in a way the body of thought that goes into this, and the idea is that that ecology and socialism are mutually dependent, in the sense that what both of them imply is that the society has to be reoriented away from making its major decisions, major production decisions, on the basis of sales and profits and all that type of thing. And so when we talk about the changes that need to be made, all the changes that Kevin has spoken about in terms of personal habits are important, but what's also important, absolutely vital, is the changes in the overall priorities of the society as a whole, which include many aspects of production, use of materials that have nothing to do with our own consumption, but instead are merely there in order to perpetuate the system. So one of the biggest discussion about waste has to look at all the damage and the wasted materials and so on that are accounted for by military production, for example. I mean, that's an absolutely crucial thing. So the fight against militarism and war is absolutely central to all this. And then there are so many other, let's say, economic activities of our society that don't contribute directly to our well-being, but that are organized in a certain way. So we talk about the transit system. So we can't, although it's true that we want to drive cleaner cars and so on, so that's not enough. In fact, one of the discussions in my book, since I take up the issue of technology, there's the whole idea that it's not enough just to get to use clean energy. There has to be less use of materials. There has to be less congestion. We have to redesign space so that people don't have to travel as far to get to where they need to go. One of the arguments also is that in the process of doing all that, we won't be sacrificing something. We'll be actually laying the groundwork for a higher quality of existence, for a restoration of sociality. The country which is the most dependent and completely oriented towards driving cars and isolating the traveling individual from other traveling individuals and putting you in a competitive relationship with them is also one in which there's the least sociality, there's the most aggressiveness, there's the mass shootings and so on. One of the objects of my book is to talk about the interrelationship of all these elements making up the life that constitutes business as usual, and business as usual, as we know and as has been verified by many studies, is absolutely leading us to our doom. There has to be a dramatic and sudden increase. So what it involves is not only the idea every dimension of life must be calling the question, but by the same token, and almost inseparable from that, is the fact that everyone must be involved in the process. And the question is how you get everyone involved. So it is a question of being able to show the relationships between each particular concern, each particular complaint that people may have, each particular activity they may have, and this larger issue of the threat to the environment and how we as a society can reconstitute ourselves in such a way as to not consume, and I mean not just individual consumption, but social consumption nearly as much, and that we restore biodiversity. I mean, I think it's very good in both the remarks that were made about the need for hope, the possibility for restoring. There are studies, and there's a website that I refer to in my book called Biodiversity for a Livable Climate, which talks about how sites that have been dried out or so on can be restored and so on. All this is very important, but the point is that the decisions to do that will not be made. They cannot be made within a capitalist framework. Within a capitalist framework, everything is oriented towards growth, and even though sectors that may talk about clean energy and even may make certain concessions to clean energy, that's not enough. So concretely, in the present period, we do have the beginnings of a reaction against all this. The whole idea. What's the time? Is it 3 minutes? Okay. We have the process in place of the Green New Deal idea being put forward. The New Deal itself, the original idea was that the government has to step in where the private enterprise doesn't go. The Green New Deal idea is a positive development, but it has to be pushed further, and we have to get away from the assumption that perpetual growth. We have to critique the militarism, critique the imperialism, and all those aspects that perpetuate the situation of conflict and distrust and that get in the way of addressing the real issues that face us. So obviously I could go on and on, but please have a look at my books to continue. And the other thing I would just say in closing is that I'm inconsistent with the point that I made about how we have to bring this into our curriculum and continuous. I'd be delighted to have continuing discussions with any group of you who wants to constitute yourself, and we can talk about all the ways in which your work and your lives and so on can this movement, which is desperately needed and which everyone has to be involved in. Thank you. So, I have the pleasure of introducing our next performer. Sophia Lanuza is an 8th semester songwriting student who's slowly starting to realize that she's run out of buffer between her and the real world. Because of that, she's decided to avoid thinking about graduation entirely and instead focus on writing vaguely humorous songs about social propriety and the fact that the planet is in deep trouble before she flees to Los Angeles.
How's it going? How's Earthapalooza treating everybody? Woo! Like I want to give a real big round of applause to everybody who's like spoken so far and performed. Yeah, I can't clap. This is such a cool event, and I wish I'd known about it before today, or before finding out that Kevin wanted me to play at this, because it really seems like I don't know, just a really important topic to talk about. And I feel like at Berklee there are lots of people who care about the environment, but sort of like risking getting hit by buses and cars as you bike to school, I feel like there's not a whole lot that we know to do. So knowing that this is really cool. I'm going to play some songs for you today. This first one is called The Ocean Song. I'm from Connecticut, but my family's from the Philippines. So the Philippines, for those of you who don't know, is just a bunch of islands kind of clustered together. And with climate change, it really sucks for us because, like, we don't really have an inland to go to because it's lots and lots of tiny islands. So, climate change is really important to us. But this one is called The Ocean Song, and it talks about the ocean. So I hope you like it. How'd you like the dolphins? Aren't they cute? The ocean. Sorry, is the uke on by any chance? Is it on here? Ho-ho! That's all me. Okay, we're gonna try this again. How'd you like the dolphins? Aren't they cute? The way they smile and surf along the waves. Don't you love the trips and the way that they spin? And how they use a beach ball when they play? Oh, isn't it neat that they don't have feet? The flippers and the tails are there instead. Oh, I love dolphins, how about you? But it's hard to love the dolphins when they're dead. And how'd you like the whales? Aren't they great? The ocean's gentle giants of the deep. Did you know that they only eat krill and shut off half their brain so they could sleep? What would you think if you saw one blink? Would you want to peer inside its head? Well, they're one of with their beautiful minds, but it's hard to love the whales when they're dead. Oh, if you never liked the water much, you better like it fast, it's heating up. And things are looking grim, oh, with rising tides and melting ice, you'd better learn to swim. I like to draw that out just to make people really uncomfortable. And what about the seals? Aren't they sweet? They're tiny and they're fluffy and they float. But they're not as nice when they're not on the ice. They're ripped apart and stuffed inside our coats. And turtles will go where turtles will go, but I know you know what's coming up ahead. So I'll skip to the news. If they die, then we're and it's hard to love the ocean when we're dead. First played that song I took this class called Oceanography last year, and we played it at this Surfrider rally. Awesome, and they asked us to play that, except we didn't realize there were going to be kids there, and there were lots of kids there, and they heard the words, and we traumatized probably 25 children that day, but at least they learned about the ocean. Their parents really weren't happy. Cool, so let me make sure my guitar's still in tune. This next one is, I don't have enough songs about the environment yet to play a 3-song set about the environment, so instead I'm gonna play a couple other ones for you. This one is also kind of an awareness thing. Last year I had a concussion, and as fun as that was, I had to go to doctors, and throughout the whole process of going to doctors and trying to get help, we were told we could go see a certain doctor, which is fine. Didn't really do a whole lot to help me, especially like in the mental health department. Nothing really, and it was like wasted time. And then we got this huge bill. My family and I got this huge bill, and apparently this happens to a lot of people, but we didn't realize that at the time. And the worst part, the most frustrating part, it's been like a year of dealing with legal issues. It's still not resolved, and we have this huge bill hanging over our head, and it's been really stressful. But the most frustrating part about it was the fact that we're getting stuck with this bill for something that didn't do anything. The woman spent like 10 weeks telling me, don't exercise as much, and also you need to sleep, and maybe light some candles to give yourself some nice ambiance, because hopefully that'll make anxiety go away, which felt really ridiculous to me. So this song is called, it's about handling kind of the back and forth of the mental health stuff that I have going on still, and how that's kind of still at play. And I know that a lot of people struggle with mental health, so I kind of thought this was important. So I'm going back and forth. I know there's something wrong with me and my chemistry, this need that I'm feeding more and more. I'm just searching for a reason. I could pretend that this is simply an exercise in attention. Gotta get some one-dimension, they notice moments. I can feel the tickle of doubt in my mind, 'cause I feel it back when I try every time. So do you know how to cure me? I'm stuck here with the medical bill for a pill I never took, but that surely, I can't just live in highs and lows, but I keep going back and forth. I know there's something wrong with me and my chemistry, this need that I'm feeding more and more. I'm just searching for a reason for being so facetious. Can't protect myself from things inside me, so I'm drifting from the lines that guide me blindly, 'cause I don't know what I'm looking for. No, I've been going back and forth. Wow, doesn't usually go well. It's jarring to witness the blatant change in position. Gotta heed my better judgment and quit it. But it's never been a choice to spiral into noise, and giving in can be so addicting. I'm living in a state of distant joy, like a brand strain euphoria. Then I'm dodging all my calls and I'm overwhelmed and over it, till I'm getting out of bed when I think I'm free to find that my unfounded certainty says everybody's mad at me. Somebody cure me. I'm stuck here with the medical bill for a pill I never got, but that surely, I can't just live in highs, but I keep going back and forth. I know there's something wrong with me and my chemistry, this need that I'm feeding more and more. I'm just searching for a reason for being so facetious. Can't protect myself from things inside me, so I'm drifting lines that guide me blindly, 'cause I don't know what I'm looking for. No, I've been going back and forth. Usually someone solos here, but it's just me, so. You've been collateral, fighting that's unilateral, but that don't change the damage that's done. So when you get to leaving, I panic and get to tweaking, and you don't know which way you should run. I wish I had an answer that better served as an anchor, but I can't track my moods like the sun. going. So when you get to leaving, I panic and get to tweaking. So I'm telling you that you should just run. Yeah, I keep going back and forth. I know there's something wrong with me and my chemistry, this need that I'm feeding more and more. I'm just searching for a reason for being so facetious. Can't protect myself from what defines me. So I'm giving up on trying to guide me finally, 'cause I don't know what I'm looking for. No, I've been going back and forth. Thank you. Usually, I have someone else playing with, like a band playing with me, so like I don't have to play that line by myself. Actually, the sound guy for the night, Noah Weil, is my guitarist, so he plays that line with me, so I never have to play that alone. So that was like one of my first times doing that in front of people. So thanks for not laughing at me. The next one is not a PS. I was gonna keep everything like kind of, you know, social justice and PSA, but I decided to do something a little funny. This one has a bar pitch, so bear with me for like 10 seconds. Growing up, did you ever have that person where you did everything together? You were best friends. You spent all your The thing about this friendship was you didn't get sick of them after like seeing them for 2 or 3 days straight. You know, it just made sense that you slept over at their house, or that you have like several pairs of shirts somewhere in their room, or, you know, you have an extra pair of sneakers for when you get really, really dirty playing in the mud when you're a little kid, and, you know, you have no general concern for hygiene. And you have the same favorite color, because that's important. And, you know, you're reading books and listening to music and watching movies, and as you grow up, you start to see, you know, this is what they're talking about. Like, this is love, you know? This is it. This is a song about his brother. It's called Oh Brother, and I hope you like it. Yeah, drunk people usually find that really funny. It's a lot, okay. Uh-oh. 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 Yeah. That was it. That was the best. Come tomorrow, I got nothing left. Promises I won't keep. Living for the moment when I fall asleep. You drew fast, you shot first. Show me love is the only thing worse than living all alone till your dying day, hoping that tomorrow becomes today. And you taught me how to feel the things we left unclear. But ooh, when I took a chance, fate had other plans. It led me to someone new, someone different from you, someone who builds me up and helps me see I'm more than the way that you treated me. And maybe it's wrong to be writing this song, 'cause I knew that I would find another. I just never thought it would be your uh-oh. 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 Mother said, let him in, with the battles that you know you'll win. And I've been fighting hard for way too long, made it back home with my armor on. But is that love? Is it true? Seems like hiding's all we'd ever do, and you were too afraid to open up. You got thinking that I wasn't good enough. And you taught me people change, good things go away. Tight, but ooh, it changed my mind. It led me to someone new, someone different from you, someone who builds me up and helps me see I'm more than the way that you treated me. And maybe it's wrong to be writing this song, 'cause I knew that I would find another. I just never thought it would be your oh. I've never done this before, learned how to close that door. You anymore, ooh, but does this make me a whore? I've never done this before, learned how to close that door. I don't want you anymore, ooh, but does this make me a who said people felt this way? Broken man knowing I don't have to change for someone else who doesn't feel the same way. And maybe now we're better off, worth it. Yeah, I cut my losses right now, 'cause I know you're not the only choice I got. You led me to someone new, someone different from you, someone who builds me up and helps me see more than the way that you treated me. And maybe it's wrong to be writing this song, 'cause I knew that I would find another. I just never thought it would be your oh. 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 Na 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 na. Oh. Oh. I just never thought it would be your. Thank you.
All right, great job, Sophia. So, all right. Get details to your program. We've been going through vibes in V, vote. We're going to fix a lot of this stuff through laws. I, individuality over quantity, what you buy. B, the change you want to see, helps establish good social norms and people listen to you more when you walk the walk. Eat earth-friendly, eat food directly rather than cycling it through animals. And finally, we're up to S. We're going to talk about energy here and saving it. So as we see, transportation is the second largest contributor to climate change. Individual cars, okay, a bit over half of that. And we saw this before. This is energy use by various sectors. Again, commercial and residential is only about 1/9 of total energy use. Most of it is embedded in what we buy, but a lot of driving is also there. And yes, producing energy, to talk about clean energy, it's still at the moment a very small percentage of our total energy output. So we need to reducing carbon dioxide emissions, getting our climate under control means saving energy. So what does this mean? Biggest decision in your life, most of you have not made yet. Victor alluded to it, where are you going to live? If you decide you're going to live way out in the suburbs where you are locking yourself into spending a large fraction of your life behind the wheel spewing out fumes. If you at all can get away with it, live near where you work, live near where you can live your life reasonably close to where you are. Which, of course, makes it much more practical if you can, commuting by bike or foot, or if you can't, train. Of course, this also means not living in one of those McMansions, but by going something with, quality personality, smaller places, of course, a lot less energy used to heat it, but most importantly, a lot less materials used to build it. And once again, there's the social norms aspect. And of course, as we said before, individuality and quality over size and quantity. And finally, since we have the extra credit and the bonus points, to get some bonus points, use less direct energy. Recycled materials, depending on the material, take between 10% and 50% of the material to make it new. Like melting down an aluminum can is 10% of the energy of making the aluminum from. Dress for the seasons, right? If it's winter, put on a sweater. If it's summer, wear shorts. And that way you don't have to be cranking the heat or the AC. Use energy efficiency appliances, light bulbs. Oh, it's just your Berklee district. What else can I do? Take the stairs. You're young and strong. If you have base, we forgive you for using the elevator. Okay, and with that in mind, I would say that one of the greatest parts of the Berklee-BOCO merger has been that the liberal arts departments all combined, and we have had some amazing new colleagues sort of cross-pollinate to Berklee. One of these, who spoke at Earthapalooza last year about a different subject, is Nate Greenslit, who teaches the cultural history of psychedelic drugs, a course I deeply regret not taking as an undergrad, as well as math, science, and truth, and music technology and culture. With that in mind, he's giving a fascinating talk titled, "It's Not Your Fault, It's Your Responsibility," and I am really curious to hear what that's all about. So give it up for Nate. Want to use this or should
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Ooh, could I get the Victor Light special? A little less on me, a little more in the room, please. So, is it Earth Day? When is Earth Day? Monday? All right, we're celebrating Earth in 70-degree weather in a windowless room. We are brave. So, where does the destruction of the earth come from, if not from desire? Isn't it a consequence of the consumption of what is unnecessary? But how do we determine what is unnecessary in our own lives? This is asking about the weird intertwining of our things, our thinking, and our actions. For instance, I see a number of you you're on your phones right now. Is that necessary? Is that truly necessary? This is not a guilt trip, mind you. But you know, when I say you, I'm just talking about most of the students in this room, are perhaps the first generation on the history of Earth to grow up with the impression that it is not desirable, but it is necessary to own a very specific thing, in this case a form of computer, and more or less have it on your person at all times. This is remarkable, this shared assumption that these things are fundamental to participating in the world, never mind to realizing ourselves, whatever that means. But about those devices in the first place, hey Stephen. If we look at our phones, our laptops, as well as our cars and our airplanes, is not our use of them direct participation in international labor exploitation, fossil fuel extraction, greenhouse gas emissions, unprecedented growth of corporations more powerful than entire countries, and so on and so on? Ironically enough, even spreading a big idea about how we are destroying the earth, it actually takes a hell of a lot of earthly resources to do that, whether we're talking about printing books or sending tweets. That is to say, getting the word out about how destructive, say, capitalism is would seem to be parasitic on capitalism. When you think about it, even the very act of communication through computers or looking something up online, these activities are monitored in various ways and exploited as free labor for the most powerful business entities on the planet. Our communications, our very inquiries, if you Google something, have been alienated as data that's surveyed so that, wait for it, we get what we want. Our desire for things, our desire for knowledge, our desire for each other becomes more efficiently extracted as fuel for the most rapid, automatic, repetitious consumerism we have ever seen, which, as has been mentioned in previous talks, is less and less tied to local space and time, to knowing exactly where something comes from and who exactly makes it. If you've ever ordered something from Amazon and had it delivered to your doorstep basically within hours, you know what I mean. So, let me tell you, it's fun to get up on a stage and preach about how we are all actively bringing about the apocalypse. It's really the only reason I became a teacher. No, but I do mean we all. So I mentioned, you know, your generation speaking to students, but exception. I know that panicky, sunk gut feeling when go to reach for your phone and it's not in your pocket. But truth be told, I simply don't know what to do about capitalism writ large. I'm a smart guy too. I can't imagine what sort of monolithic global solidarity is necessary to transcend capitalism, whatever that might mean, if and in fact that's the goal. Worse, I don't have the fortune teller perspective to know whether and how my own personal going about the world is helping or hurting. I mean, I know what guilt feels like. I have one of these things in my pockets on me, right? But I can't say that that guilt fundamentally changes anything I do. Just makes me feel gross, might compel me to complain about what I feel forced to do in order to get by, like owning that phone. So guilt, one of my favorite topics. Guilt is a form of blame. And blame happens in two directions. You blame yourself, or you blame somebody else. But don't be fooled. In either case, it's the same magic trick, the same tired old psychology. We are disturbed at the way things are. And so we keep looking for fault, and lo and behold, we keep finding it. But perhaps the destruction of the earth, which is the language we keep using, in essence, is the consequence of this fault-finding mission. So if we look at the twin industries of, I'll call them indulgence and asceticism, think binge drinking and going to the gym. You see, they depend on each other in an interesting way, that one creates an apparent problem that the other apparently solves. This is the zero-sum game of debt. That, you know, if we think about how we rationalize our own behaviors, I shouldn't have done that, so I'll do this to make up for it. Or I did something that I should have done, and so I owe this gift to myself, and so on and so on. This is the deep psychology of accounting, our neurotic record of debt. In all such cases, we're essentially looking past where we are to where we should be, where we've decided we deserve to be, for better or worse. We are unrepentant, moralizing tricksters, magicians stupefying ourselves into an incapacity to see what is right under our noses, robbing ourselves of the ability to respond freely and spontaneously. Hence, the title of my talk, Responsible, it's actually spelled response-able, response-able, in contrast to responsible. But that's the thing, the sort of the woe is me emphasis on ourselves, on humans, on the dreaded anthropos. Indeed, after all, don't we see ourselves, humans, as not only the worst threat, but as the only proper threat to Earth? Accordingly, we either see ourselves as villains or potential heroes, pillaging or rescuing a passive Earth. I say, how narcissistic. Perhaps such malaise is just quaintly outmoded and wrong-headed. Perhaps we must move away from what's been called human exceptionalism, especially the guilt-laden tale that we and we alone are ruining this object we've named Earth. Rather, let's think of Earth, capitalism for that matter, not as things, but as processes. That Earth is not an object, but it's an interspecies, trans-, cyborgian, biosymbiotic process of becoming together. The deceased American comedian George Carlin had a bit about plastic. Hang on, was the gist of it. Maybe the Earth wanted plastic all along. Didn't know how to. So the Earth made humans, who in turn made plastic. And maybe the bonus is that since, you know, mission accomplished, we are no longer necessary. And thusly are we carrying out our final duty of destroying ourselves. Because really, I think the idea destroying the earth is a bit overblown when you think about it. I think our real anxiety is that we are destroying humanity. We might not survive global warming. Given enough ecological time, the earth will bounce back just fine. Things will probably be much more peaceful with it. Now, I know this is coming off as snarky nihilism, and it is, but I'm trying to untie the knotted together questions of how do we distinguish between what we need and what we desire, and just what in the hell are we all doing here in the first place? How much time have you spent meditating on why you exist? My guess, and I'm just speaking from personal experience, is not nearly enough. In any case, I propose for the pleasure of your contemplation that desire is fear in drag. You want something because you fear that if you don't acquire this thing or this idea or this person, you will be abandoned, left behind, left out, punished, which is just a way of saying that you already feel abandoned, left behind, left out, punished. I also propose that these convictions are the deepest of delusions. So, what to do? In Victor's last book, he writes about the waste of people, by which he refers to how capitalism has reduced humanity to consumers. We see this in education too. Don't we actually nowadays speak of college students as consumers of educations? Personally, I think this is an impoverished and offensive notion. I say we need to devalue education, literally. We need to stop thinking of education as a means to an end. After all, the use of other people to obtain one's own ends is just another way to define exploitation. And what is the basic mechanism of capitalism if not the systematic exploitation of labor and resources for the sake of generating wealth, wealth that quite literally comes at the expense of those laboring humans and those limited resources? So, students, faculty, all of us, what sends you to your phones, your laptops, even in class? I think you're bored. I think you're habituated to be elsewhere. In fact, this is backwards. I think the habit of feeling like you must be elsewhere is boredom. You've probably heard the expression that necessity is the mother of invention. That's a lie. Boredom is the mother of invention. And what is boredom than what it feels like to be intolerant to the here and now? And what is intolerance to the here and now if not an incapacity to listen, to be truly present to whatever is happening, to bear witness to life itself, to be curious, and at the ready to be surprised? And what is being surprised if not the recognition that you are wrong? Being wrong is such a beautiful thing. If you can orient yourself to wrongness properly. If you are not open to being wrong, then you're basically incapable of learning. And yet we're so habituated into thinking we've got this here and now thing figured out, so much so that we can outsource being here and now to, well, someone else. But I propose that boredom, too, is fear in drag. In fact, perhaps there's nothing we fear more than the here and now. This fear breeds ignorance. And I mean ignorance in its literal sense, ignore-ance, as in the state of ignoring what's right in front of you. And when we are ignorant, we make all sorts of mistakes. For instance, we mistake politeness for compassion. We mistake surveillance for protection. We mistake correct speech for just language. We mistake arrogance for confidence. We mistake excuses for explanations. And we mistake being right for being useful. All of these mistakes are made as consequences of the fear of the here and now. We're so obsessed with who we are, it might be more fulfilling to generate awareness of where we are, what we're thinking, and what we're doing, This is higher level consciousness, my friends. It's the ability to see reality for what it is and to respond unflinchingly, compassionately, justly, confidently, usefully. Again, this is responsibility, meaning the ability to respond, not the responsibility that always stinks of the mothballs of preserving our ideals of who we think we should be. The most response-able state possible is perhaps the one thing that would stop capitalism dead in its tracks. This would be reality that we already have everything we need and enjoying it authentically without treating it as a means to an end. And again, unless we're ignorant, it's all right under our noses. If you just take a look around this room, everything, all the things, especially all the humans, we don't need to be responsible to any of it. We just need to be response-able to all of it. So with that, I want to end by just saying, please enjoy yourselves. Thank you. You guys ready? Okay, and now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce our final music performance of the day, which is Sam Seibert, who's a fourth semester songwriting and performance major with years of experience playing, writing, and arranging music, mostly rock-related genres. He takes pride in creating music that is unique, hoping to provide a fresh take on the genre. Apart from music, Sam also enjoys traveling, the beach, and Star Trek. Please welcome Sam.
How's everybody doing out there? Just want to say great job to all the other performers and speakers who've come out. I've been watching everything from backstage, best seats in the house. This first song that we're going to play is called Almost Alone on an Airplane. The song, Why We're Here. This is kind of a warning to everyone about the state of our world and an idea of what we'll need to do to push it back in the right direction.
The sky is so much brighter at night. Cities casting a black smoke reflecting a light. Land masses are swallowed by oceans. Lakes will be green with pollutants. Falling, falling, acid rain. The concrete is mangled and showing the bone. Bloody blackness, color stain. Some other swallowing where stars were shown. You've sealed. Act as a star, emitted the most critical. The action. Never keep your opinions concealed. Speak out, protest, don't tolerate corruption. Approaching is our destruction. Rotting shells of many cars are passed by people on sidewalks who don't see grass. We're almost alone on an airplane. We stop the world more than keeping it going. We've fought a story told of when what Christ and rebirth was assured. Furthest world from our cold, cause that's that should have listened and heard. Sit be still and well speak. You've sealed. Act as a star emits its most critical. The action. Never keep your opinions concealed. Approaching is our destruction. Your high rises will blow in the wind. There's no wood too deep for mother to heal. Every story is in your own skin, your skin. We are the ones who will feel. We will feel. The is so near. When the time comes quaking with fear, when losing the dust and despair, clouding up immensely thin air. Nothing left of forest but land. Valleys turned inside and we tread. Not an inch of grass on the hills. Deadly sun rays piercing the field. Make it yet, save a kid. you chose to suffocate, re-emerge level 2 back of your throat. Realization, it's too late. But as for your conscience, you made to remote. Sit, be still, and the world speaks. You've sealed. Act as a story meets its most critical junction. Never keep your opinions concealed. Approaching is our destruction. Your high rises will blow in the wind. There's no wound too deep for mother to heal. Every injury is in your own skin. We are the ones who will feel. Sit, be still, and the world speaks. You've sealed. Just stop hurting, and you'll help us instead. Never keep your opinions concealed. Act now, or we will surely be dead.
Thank you. We got one more song for you. We're gonna make it happier. I know there's a lot of like dark, heavy stuff that we've talked about today, but there's always that light that keeps us moving forward and makes us, actually want to do something and not just accept our demise. This song goes out to that light. This is called Dreamer.
Starlight is all I see. You wish you loved your soul. My time is never over. Gave the world to me. Your touch is electric, but I'm not paralyzed. With you, I'll fly away. Have you ever felt the dark space where you feel alone, like you've lost everything? When you look up into blank space, do you feel smaller? Do you feel you can conquer everything? I'll take you back to your last state, just before everything about when you still had everything. 'Cause you're a star in the blank space. When I look, I find my way. Your smile, it takes me off to Never Land. Your smile, it makes me think you're a mermaid. Your smile, it makes me think I can do anything. The list of things that can stop me includes nothing. You make me a dreamer. You make me pay. I remember those nights when the stars used to shine by their own light. That night when they all went out. And I remember that time when you shone so bright, you lit the sky with a different light. I find it hard to believe that was really a night. remember that touch like a fuzzy feeling fluttering, heart fluttering, soul I have a bullet, but you still made it flutter, 'cause you're a star and I still have everything. Your smile takes me off to Never, Never Land. Your smile makes me think you're a mermaid. Your smile, it makes me think I can do anything. The list of things that can stop me includes nothing. You make me a dreamer. You make me all I can be. You make me a dreamer. You make me big.
And I wanna live somewhere where you can plant trees in the yard and watch them grow. And I wanna live somewhere where you can hear crickets chirping outside the window.
You make me a dreamer.
I wanna live somewhere where you can hear crickets chirping outside the window.
Your smile takes me off to Never, Never Land. Your smile makes me think you're a mermaid. Your smile makes me think I can do anything. The list of things that can stop me includes nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4. You make me a dreamer. You make me all I can be. You make me a dreamer. You make me.
Thank you. That's all we got for you guys. Thank you.
Incredible, thanks. Wonderful energy there. Thank you, Sam. That's good. All right. So once again here, we talked about the vibes to help our environment, fully detailed in the program. Vote, individuality over quantity, what you buy. Be the change you want to see in the world. Eat earth-friendly and save energy. As those of us who were here in the beginning may have recalled, there were 3 tasks. Have a good time, learn some stuff. I certainly had a good time, and I hope you did. I hope we learned stuff too. Keeping it going, well, that is yet to be determined, right? That one's up to you. With that in mind, I'd like to thank people, all the songwriter performers who performed, Reese Massey, Nicolle, Chaves, Sophia Lanuza, and Sam Seibert, and of course all the people in their bands who brought it today. So thank you for them. Oh, like pause to the end, we have, of course, the professors Linda Chase, Ben Thomas, Victor Wallis, and Nate Greenslit who spoke. And, of course, the liberal arts chairman Pilon, professional education dean, and everyone else behind the scenes, including not least all these wonderful people at the David Fred Recital Hall who've kept things from not totally melting down. I appreciate that immensely. All right. Happy Earth Day. Keep it going. We're declaring.
I could climb the Himalayan mountains or the pyramids in West Peru. I could in time and hear Al Green sing. It wouldn't mean a thing without you. I could sail across the Indian Ocean, bathe in the reflection of the moon. I could find